Now, what would Google do with all the information that was generated from watching who's buying and who's selling? What kind of advertising would appear on a Google page for someone who was searching cars? We're now at a point that all we have to do at the Star Tribune is adopt commercially accepted techniques that have been pioneered by others, but now applied to our business. The only truly innovative thing that we're talking about is taking these techniques that society has accepted and applying them to our business. When we aggregate consumers and we aggregate commerce, both sides win. Both the advertisers and the readers win. Now, there are a couple of challenges that develop for us. Biggest challenge is our history. For 142 years, the Star Tribune has done it one way. Even when we went online, what we did is we put the newspaper online. The journalists, the 250 or so journalists that work in our newsroom, are members of a profession. Like many professions, the legal profession, the teaching profession, change comes hard. Their job is to unearth the news and report it. Their job is not necessarily to engage a large consumer audience the way that consumer audience wants to be engaged. And when you make money the way newspapers did, there was a time, this is a purely local business, this is the Star Tribune only I'm talking about, a Twin Cities-based business. It generated more than $100 million in operating cash flow per year for a lot of years. There aren't many purely local businesses that generate $100 million in cash flow. That security allowed the Star Tribune to do a lot of things. The Coles family that owned the Star Tribune at the time bought 5 contiguous city blocks because they had so much cash, they didn't know what to do with it. So they started buying land. You may have heard the Vikings are talking about building a stadium, and the land is part of those discussions now. It's right next to the Metrodome where our headquarters is. But 5 city blocks. That allowed, that kind of financial success allowed the Star Tribune to adopt an attitude like most newspapers did that says, you know what, we're going to tell you what the news is. We're going to tell you what order you're going to read it. We're going to tell you what's on the front page. And we're going to tell you when we're going to deliver it to you. Meaning we'll promise to have it there by 5, and I hope it gets there by 7. Now, the change in the digital world doesn't allow that anymore, obviously. But change comes hard. People in journalism were trained to do it exactly that way. They protect the traditions of their profession fiercely. Where those traditions end and innovation can begin is one of the things we're going to find out over the next couple of years. So, for instance, the iPad. The iPad may change everything, in fact, for the newspaper industry. And it can change it in a lot of ways. One of the first questions is, whose customer is it? Is it our customer? Or is it Steve's customer? Steve's got a point of view, and so do we. But you get past that simple issue, the reading experience is going to be so rich. It's not yet. I mean, you look at what the Wall Street Journal or New York Times has on the iPad today, it's not engaging, but it will be. Imagine this. Imagine our writers are reporting on last night's Twins game. And they want to describe for you the home run that Joe Mauer hit. They don't have to describe it. They can show it to you with a touch. Now, we know it won't be flash technology. It'll be HTML5 because it's Steve's world. But think about the change in journalism. We don't have to tell you what happened. We can show you what happened. We'll have to negotiate for the rights. So our legal staff is going to be growing. But think about how rich that is. Now you've watched Joe hit the home run, and you want to know what percentage of Joe's home runs go to left field as opposed to center or right. We can access immediately, embedded in that story, very rich, very deep, very detailed statistics. When we give you a story to read with the iPad, we don't have to repeat all the history of that story. If you really want to read one more story about Denny Hecker, how many of you love reading Denny Hecker stories in the paper? Yeah. Yeah, you're all lying because we watch online And the #1 story that's being read now that Tom Petters is off the headlines is Denny Hecker, so you're all lying. We know who you are, and we know what you're reading. Instead of telling you all the past history of what Denny's going through, in the future, we'll just give you today's news, which is usually a paragraph or two, but then we'll give you a link. If you're new to the story or you've been out of town, because you must have been out of town if you missed the Denny Hecker story, we'll give you a link to all the past history. Think how rich that environment is going to be. We're going to give you the news when you want it, as much of it as you want, either in brevity or in depth, and we're going to give it to you at a very reasonable cost. Oh, cost? Did somebody say cost? Did somebody say that kind of news and that kind of information somebody's going to have to pay for? One of the things that I think is becoming clear is that there's going to be a balance in the system between paid content, premium content, and generally available free content. The freemium model looks like the winner does. We're all going to watch the New York Times. The New York Times has announced that they're going to start charging for at least some content in January of next year. I don't know what's taken them so long, but because the New York Times is clearly a bellwether in the industry, we're all going to watch. Other people are going to experiment in the meantime, but the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times, while they have very specialized content, are generating results now that are worth noting. Let me use the Financial Times, which I think for many people is the finest newspaper in the world. The Financial Times made a move to say that if you read less than 30 articles per month, you have free access to our site. But if you want to read more than 30 articles per month, you're going to have to subscribe. Here's what they found. Their readership dropped, but only slightly, and their advertising revenue went up. The reason was they knew more about the customers that remained. Those customers were loyal and focused and interested. And advertisers have learned that it's not just how many eyeballs, it's what's behind those eyeballs that makes a customer value. Intent to purchase, timeliness, matter. We can't win the CPM, the cost per thousand battle. We will never, given the nature of our newsroom and the expense of running our business, we will never be the low-cost producer of advertising. We have to be the high value-added provider of advertising. And what we know about our customers and what their interests are at the moment gives us that opportunity. And the Financial Times and subsequently the Wall Street Journal are really paving the way on that. Technology, though, isn't just a challenge to our business, it's a boon to our business. Here's the math. It costs us about $90 a year to manufacture a paper, outside the newsroom cost, just the pure manufacturing, manufacture a paper and deliver it to you. $90 a year. Online, it costs us 65 cents per year. Someday, we don't know when that day will be, no one does, the printing presses will stop rolling. Someday, the print edition will go away. The reason will be, you don't want it, because what we can do for you on an iPad is so much richer. The iPad is the first thing that I've seen that could cause me as a civilian to stop subscribing to the print edition. Right now, it's only a promise, but I think it's a good promise, and I think it's coming. How long that will take, whether it's the iPad or other tablets, because we can't live in Steve's world all the time. But the tablet technology is so profound that I think we're going to have an opportunity to give you richer information at a cost basis that's so much more attractive to us. So that's the business side. That's where we're going. That's what the advantages of technology are and what some of the challenges are in terms of innovation.